Hi and welcome to this week's episode of Southwoods Ghost Watch. I hope everybody can see us now today better from different angles. Yeah. I'd like to introduce our our resident parapsychologist and psychologist, Dr. Martin Shrewsbury. Moving in a bit more is my resident buddy and paranormal investigator, Adam Jones.
Hello.
And the unicorn is probably one of the most important mans we've been working with over the last year is Anthony Cherry.
Good evening.
So let's get down to business. First of all then, Anthony, we're just wondering, what got you into paranormal?
I think it started when I was a young lad, growing up in Hull where my family were from.
Yeah.
And it was like 6 or 7, my cousins, were really into ghosties and all the rest of it. And then, like one time, I was just like, it's just frightening us. And I was just fascinated by ghosts and always wanted to see one, really,
Yeah.
Right the way through all my, from the age of 7.
So I chased that shadow,
yeah,
that different thing like bumps and things.
Really bad drawings on the back of the bedroom windows, and doors, terrible. Big long fans going, and they go, yeah, Tony, go upstairs, have a look, see if you can see any ghosts. And they'll jump out and yeah, it's very humorous, but it's very petrified. Well, I think I turned out okay.
Yeah, I think so, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think that one of my best experiences was the boogeyman, my brother. My older brother actually, he's watching us now, probably humiliate them. Always, it's like a clown type thing.
Yeah.
And when we were growing up, it was like, don't look at the doors, the wardrobe doors, because the boogeyman's going to be in there.
Yeah.
So petrified that I had nightmares.
Well, I used to watch Outer Limits, and that scared me. From a young age, because I remember that. I was born in the 80s, you see, and I remember growing up watching Outer Limits, and I used to watch Dr. Terror's House of Horrors as well, on a Friday night. But I still camped at my grandpa's house, you see, at my grandpa's house, and we used to watch horror films every Friday and Saturday, it's quite mad.
Kind of like me, I suppose. I was really interested in horror films. I should be watching them. I mean, watched the American Werewolf in London when I was about 7 years of age.
Stay off moors, lads.
Yeah, and until recently I had this real massive phobia of werewolves.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I was watching an 18 class film when you're 7.
No, it's not a good idea at all. No. I did exactly the same. Exactly the same.
Right then, so I guess that we need to move on. So, what was your first ever location?
Oh, first ever location? God, this is going back a while now. I mean, probably. I think it's about 2003, 2004, I suppose.
Yeah?
When I started out pretty much in the paranormal side of things. And I did this paranormal diploma course on the home study thing. And then I put my own little ghost club together down in Porthcawl.
That's right, yes, I remember.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we did some haunted pubs and things. And there's one particular instance, which was the Farmer's Arms, which we had really good results. And there's one part, it was about 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and me and my friend was with me, and we just like footsteps come from nowhere really, and they just like walked straight past us as if it was and we were like, oh, what's that, trying to find out what that was, and just like still to this day it's like, wow.
Because the Farmer's Arms, wasn't that something to do with pirates or something? They had smuggler tunnels, that's the smuggler's pub in, that's what I'm thinking of, a graveyard.
No, the other one was Johnny Sailor. Yeah.
Close enough.
Yeah, close enough. I always still get confused. Norwich, Newton's, 2 villages in Porthcawl. I don't know which one is which. But we never did get to the Johnny Sailor.
No. We believe it or not need meaning to go back.
Oh, cool.
But we shall hopefully cross fingers if they're watching. Keep down quite shortly, hopefully. What else? Oh, now, very, very interesting thing to me actually, because it's got interesting news. What got you into what you're doing now, shamanism?
Shamanism, I think, because I've been right the way through my life up until this point, really, always been interested in otherworldly things such as ghosts. Starting off as a kid, turned my hand to real bad Wicca, I suppose, in my teens, and I put my hand in and gone bird really, I suppose. So I was like, oh, shocking me a bit, because I mean, you're naive in your teens, I suppose. And through then, into my 20s, started going down some spiritual mediumship, when sat in some close circles. And started to think, I would become a spiritualist medium, I think. I'll turn my hand to that. And from there, really, through my 20s, which has turned out to be a bit of a drunken blur, if I'm being honest. I turned around 31 and I was thinking, alright, okay, I really want to get back into this because it's really close to me. I feel like I could do something with this field of the occult, or whatever you want to call it. And so I thought, okay, I'll just go back into this mediumship stuff, see if that warms me. And then I enrolled in a course down in Swansea, renowned psychic medium, which is named Stephen O'Brien, and enrolled on this course called Self-Awareness. And me and my wife at the time, my wife were thinking, why are we going on this course for? We know everything there is to know about everything.
Yeah.
So a year later, after the Self-Awareness course, we thought, no, we didn't actually know shit, excuse the French.
That would be edited for the podcast.
And so that was great, I really recommend anybody who wants to do any esoteric work or anything like that, any deep work, connect with you. The best tool is to get to know yourself really. And start off, find out where you are emotionally and where you are physically. And then you know what's how and what affects other people or other locations. So move it on to that, that's one thing I would look at. Definitely.
Definitely. Well, that covers the next question, which would have been your course that you did as well. So yeah, we pretty much covered that. Okay. Aftercare of the paranormal, the service that you provide for people.
Yeah. Well, this came about really after I got into the shamanism side of things. I found my shamanism path. I did a one-day introduction course up in Brecon in 2007. It was a lady called Sarah Holbrook. And then generally that was, really took to it straight away that day, middle world, upper world, psychology which goes with shamanism. And I just took to it straight away, and so I went through that and I enrolled on a practitioner course. And I've always been still in the background, still, really interested in the paranormal side of things. I thought while I was learning my shamanic craft, I also learned how to do space clearings for environments and homes and things like that. And I thought, that's a nice tool I could also use and provide as well to groups like you, Southwest Goes for. And to give them, give you another service required really in your investigation procedures. And that's how I got in touch with you, and here we are now.
That's true. We have used Anthony quite a few times, don't we? I say used as in the, in the good terms, not the bad terms. For actual house clearance, and I got to be honest, it's been an eye-opener for what I know you haven't worked with Anthony quite yet.
I haven't had the pleasure of working with you yet.
No, but it's been quite interesting to see certain things, different angles, and a different angle of the paranormal, because we are very tech, and I think Di was probably watching right now. Alright, hi Di and Amberley back in Cardiff. We'll back me up, but we are, you know yourself, we're very tech based. We go in with night vision cameras, all the meters, everything, and that's the way we work. But since I think it was October last year, I started working with yourself with a private case for us all, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
right. Yes.
Yeah.
That flat.
Yeah,
that's right. Yes.
Yeah.
It was the cat.
Flat, yeah.
The cat. It was definitely an eye opener to a different angle on paranormal, and I think there's one thing that's floating out there at the moment, a lot of animosity, as we were talking before we came on the air, within paranormal teams and different angles that people work with, and they should really more bring a unity. There's a saying going out at the moment on Facebook that's like, keep the paranormal friendly. You'd calm down a bit and just be united front, like, definitely.
I think that's very interesting because, if you don't mind me, what you said was very wise, Anthony, about knowing yourself. There's a long tradition of shamanic background, Siberian, North American, Indian, ancient Greek, where you have to know yourself before you venture into it. You made the point about getting into perhaps things you shouldn't have got into at an earlier stage. You can't get into anything like this unless you really do know yourself, where your darkness is, where your light is.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's an old tradition, shamanism. It should be highly respected. That's why it's so down to earth and important that ordinary people do it. So it's excellent.
I mean, like, to make another point, I mean, with shamanism, it's not this great guru thing which has been made out. And it's not necessarily, when people think of shamanism, they think of Native Americans. It's older than that. It originated in Siberia 40,000 years ago.
That's right.
So that's where it came from. And with the shamanistic inputs towards the paranormal things, it's another tool for you guys. I mean, before, when we first got in touch with you, they said, what do you do as an aftercare option for these people in private places? You go in there and say if the place is rather active and there's things flying around, you go in and just go, right, set the cameras up, let's have a look, right, we've got the footage, okay, let's go. And they're doing, we're going to take these ghosts with you or not? And you're like, right. So I thought, I'd offer my services to you guys to say, okay, I can come in and then I'll do a piece of work which I call spirit liaison, you know. So I'll go in there and do my shamanic techniques and to tune into the home and see what the cause and what the effect is and take it from there.
Definitely, it's definitely an interesting interesting
Look
angle.
at the shamanic idea of soul retrieval,
Sure.
rescuing people who've been emotionally damaged.
Yeah.
This is why it's so powerful. And if you say no gurus, no, you know, if you are going to go into this, as I mentioned before, you do have to know yourself. And that's why your stuff is so practically useful. It's great.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think we covered there as well. Shaman's point of view of aftercare with that as well. I think. So I guess.
Must be psychic.
That's why I thought I was psychic as well, but
Psychic or sidekick.
psychic, yeah.
I guess then the next thing we would move on to is your view on paranormal, your personal view, I guess, and chasing beer.
Yeah, this is probably going to upset a few of the die-hard paranormal people out there who goes, I need stern evidence to believe that there's something in the afterlife and there's ghosts and all this. To me, I go straight up and say, yeah, it's there. Okay, it's energy, we're all energy. That's been proven in modern physics. What we are made of is just molecules which are held together by energy. And homes, places have energy. And sometimes people who depart this world in a very dramatic fashion sometimes can leave an imprint in the actual environment, which can cause a ripple effect for a place to be haunted.
Yeah.
And another point what I'm getting at that now is that 9 times out of 10 a home isn't necessarily haunted by a person who has passed. Most of the cases I've done, apart from working with you guys, I've done also a lot of space clearings for other people. And 9 times out, it's just bad feng shui. Simple as that, you know? And what happens then, if you can start thinking that a corner of, oh, don't like that, it gives me the creeps.
We've got a topic about it. You talked about this before, didn't we?
Yeah.
I remember this, yeah.
And it gives you the creeps that corner. I don't know why, it's something bad. And as soon as you start giving the energy, like a creepy, creep, something from outside, you start feeding this corner. And this corner does actually become to what people would describe as a haunted place, you know?
Yeah.
So then it'll become, because you're sending the energy and feeding it, and it'll become haunted. You know, 9 times out of 10, it's our creation.
So you know, when somebody passes or when somebody dies, do you believe that every location becomes haunted? Or is it, if a case has a bad history, or if some place has a bad history, it's more likely to be haunted?
Yeah.
Yeah?
And spirits are around all the time, around us everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, that's another point, is how many ghosts would you have seen today without even realising? Just by walking down the street, a crowded street of people, there could have been 3 or 4 people, could have been just, as we would call it, ghosts, you know? But it's just our psyche in our mind, you know, because we're little humans, we just can't really open it up that much for us to be able to take things in, for us to end up in the funny house, as it were.
Yes.
So, I think the next thing we're going to probably shift on to is a topic that we're going to be doing with yourself quite shortly, where we are looking for, how can I put it, people willing to come in and try something with us. We're doing a thing called past life regression. I believe that's what we're trying. So before we move on to Martin, I think I will pick on you again.
Oh, excellent.
And your view on past life regression, maybe your beliefs, I guess, as well.
Yeah. Okay, from past life regression, I would say from a shamanic viewpoint, I think it's not such as a past life, but it's like an ancestral kind of vibration. I feel this is quite hard to explain in a nutshell, but I'll give it a shot.
Okay.
I mean, like in shamanic terms, I mean, when we're here in this incarnation, we're also living in parallel our past lives, as you would call it. But they're right here along us, it's our little paths as we're going across the planes with just different vibrations. And for me, sometimes the past lives can come into ours and cross over. And sometimes that's where we get reminders of where we are, and sometimes a strange flashback or some familiar habit that we're not quite sure. Even sometimes could be down to deja vu as well. So, oh, I've been here before, you know? So that's past life from a shamanic perspective. And what we do for regressive terms in the healing technique, you know, we'll go on ancestry trails and we'll go back through our ancestors, you know, in a meditation or shamanic journey, and we'll go and explore it that way. And a few times I've run into a few myself, past lives, and I think, wow, okay. I've been this little traveller in this Siberian tundra, sat around the campfire and throwing these stones in, casting these little bits of wood. I think I was doing a room casting, that's what it felt to me. I looked down and I see my attire, these particular boots, you know, and I come back and say, oh right, that was a past life. So I'm sure because, you know, we're just energy, we do continue and come back and go, and come back and go. So, you know, our souls last for an eternity, really.
Yeah.
So that's a shamanic.
Yeah. I've always believed that your soul will last forever, and when you die, you're reincarnated as somebody else and something completely different. And I believe that when you're sleeping, your mind becomes a lot stronger, and you can see more things because you're using more of your brain. And you sometimes pick on something that you've done in the past, or something which maybe you haven't done yet, that is there, that is in your mind, but you're not sure. You can't kind of visually interpret it, you know. There's always fragments, you know, and you don't always see things very clearly, you know. I think
that's your
that's
tie down on past life regression.
Pretty much.
Okay, so I think what we're going to do now, I don't mean to be rude, turn around all the time, we are trying to work our way through a bit of a mic issue, I think. So I'm going to pick on people when we do talk, guys. Try and talk a little bit louder, I think it is. But we are trying to work our ways through it at the moment, little teething problems, so just bear with us.
Talk a bit louder.
Okay, shout to the mic, don't be afraid. Bad mic, is that better? So I'm going to hand the microphone over to Martin to talk more about this lovely little experiment. We're hoping to get people interested in the next couple of weeks, so we can start airing it hopefully around about November, December time. Hopefully maybe a live episode, you never know.
Yep.
But introducing Dr. Martin Shrewsbury.
Past life regression. I was very pleased to hear Anthony say those things because one of the roots of the belief in past life is shamanic. But there's also a religion in Tibet called Bon, which is the pre-Buddhist religion of Tibet, which is a shamanic tradition.
Yeah.
That's why Tibetan Buddhism is so interesting. You can look at past life regression in a number of ways. You can look at it as exploring our ancestral links. You can look at it and why do I keep doing the same mistake over and over again? And I think it's like a critical path where when we discover that moment, if we know that moment, we change it. So past life regression is about discovering knowing yourself on an ancestral level. Some people have actually talked about I suppose, ancestral memory in the genes. This is the beauty of things like shamanism. Anthony and I are talking about the same subject, using different words, but essentially we mean the same thing. Yeah. And past life regression enables you to perceive yourself as you say, an eternal being, but perhaps sometimes you wear different sets of clothes. One of those sets of clothes is Ian at the moment, one is Anthony, and so on. And so what fascinates me about this is how we get back to that. The big warning I would give you is that past life regression can be a dangerous thing if not done properly. So if you're interested in finding out about past life regression, it is important that you don't do major narcotics. It's a good idea that you're not clinically depressed at the time, and it's a good idea that perhaps you're not going through a major trauma. Apart from that, past life regression is very enjoyable, very entertaining, and some people will remember scenes, perhaps déjà vu, some will remember particular people. I often think when we meet significant people in our lives, we meet fascinating people.
Can you try the mic slightly closer?
Is that better?
When
we meet significant people who become our lovers, our girlfriends, our husbands, our wives, or whatever, it's something about that person that strikes us. You made the point about walking along the street and seeing, was it a ghost? Was it a person? Was that person who was significant? So we'd be really interested in having a group of people experimenting with to see what they remember, and we could take up to 15 people. Would have to have a little chat with them first just to make sure that they're not disturbed. Won't ask too many questions.
Yeah, some kind of assessment.
An assessment to see if they're suitable for it.
Yeah.
And it would be good if Anthony was there as well to see if there's anything nasty around.
Yeah. So what sort of dangers would doing past life regression therapy be on somebody who has a disturbed mind?
Well, we've all got disturbed minds, first of all. It's the degree to which we're disturbed.
Yes, yeah.
I suppose there is no danger as long as the space is clean, protected. It's got people there who know what is going on, and people are open to it and interested in it. Some people, I say, will get pictures. Some will get will hear things. Some will see things. Some will get a taste. I remember when I was doing a particular workshop on it. That night afterwards, I had a dream that I was in the Warsaw Ghetto. I was a Jew in the Warsaw Ghetto, and the Nazis were coming to get me. We do have Jewish blood going a long way back, and I sort of think, I'm not sure whether that was an ancestral memory or it was actually a past life. I think you have to be open about that. You will share things like that.
Yeah.
So, you know, would you like as many people as possible to contact you? You know?
Yeah, very interesting, fascinating.
It's quite interesting. There are stories that the reason Mozart was supposed to be so good at music was because he remembered a past life as a musician. And there are certain talents. There's an old tradition in Wales of a Celtic bloodline that carries the sixth sense, the second sight. And sometimes things like that can be accessed, and sometimes it can help perspectives. It can also help you understand why there are certain people you hate and certain people you were drawn to.
What fascinates me about past life regression is the fact that, you know, the soul, how the soul decides what body or what character we become through each life, and whether or not we're learning through each life, or whether or not the soul thinks, well, you were this person in the previous life now, and I think you could be better. There's this person or that person. How the soul determines what we learn or what we have learned through each life.
Yeah,
I've always found that fascinating.
What I feel about that is that we actually select our body and select our path. And when we go back to spirit, as I would call it, that we actually got a life plan which is lined up ahead of us. And our spirit helpers, ancestors, but they in spirits actually say, right, this is what you need to learn this lifetime. So you go along, and then this is like right, alright, this is what I need to learn. I'm supposed to be like sometimes reincarnated and even to addiction or something pretty nasty. That's what's a life lesson for you to learn from somehow. I know, it's kind of a bit bizarre, but that's the way I feel personally about what it is.
Yeah, I think you're very interesting. It's very interesting that, because if people make the same patterns over and over again, addiction to a particular substance or whatever, maybe an addiction that has appeared in different past lives. You made the point about how shamanically a lot of people go through a time of chaos in their life before they have insight. And that's very, very important in the shamanic tradition.
Yeah.
Time of chaos and disorganisation.
As it's called in shamanism, the wounded healer.
A wounded healer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. We have to be wounded to understand the wounds of others.
Yeah.
There's an old Greek myth about a guy called Chiron, he was a centaur, he was man and horse, and he had a wound in his leg that never healed. And because of that wound, he had insight.
Give the mic a little bit away from your mouth. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
Roughly there, sorry buddy. Just not know it sound
because of that wound, he had insight into other people's suffering. Carl Gustav Jung, the great psychologist, his mother, to all intents and purposes, was a Swiss shaman. His father was a Lutheran pastor in the church, and that was a very interesting background to come from. So there's all these traditions that we don't talk about, but are being taken seriously. And this is why, you know, it's fascinating. So I'm sure if you let Ian know, or anybody here, we can do some investigations into that. And we have Anthony there,
Sure.
and we can explore
Sounds
and
good.
see what we get.
Yeah.
So, shall I hand back to you, Ian, or are you busy over there? He's doing all right.
Sorry about that. There's something up there.
We're trying to find out if Ian and Katie are what their karmic links were.
Yeah.
I would think every woman I've ever met who was significant in my life, I've always had a sixth sense, so I've met them for the first time.
I don't know about that. I mean, I think a lot of people know, as you've known me a
11
kid.
years. 11
Yeah.
years, yeah, a long time.
So it's been a lot of time.
Yeah.
I think we fit well together. We work well together. But as far as I don't know, I've never really.
I wonder sometimes if we were friends in a past life, if your previous life and my previous life, we were both friends.
Soulmates doesn't necessarily have to mean
No.
boyfriend, girlfriend as well.
And neither
Yeah.
does it have
You
to
could
be.
have
Yeah,
and a group of soulmates as well.
precisely.
Yeah.
Neither does it have to mean that you necessarily like the person.
That's right, yeah.
They could be negative soulmates in the sense of that make you have a crisis. You know, this sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's really quite open how you view soulmates. There are connections, there are webs that somehow happen.
Links us.
It's not necessarily about relationship. It's not necessarily about finding the perfect mate. Being a soulmate, it could be something else.
You could be needed to challenge some things about one another. You know, so that's what's really available in that. You know, and if anybody did have anything that came up that was disturbing or worrying, we can deal with it. So people don't have to worry.
So are we looking at doing this then? How about it? Live? Would you want to do a few live?
Well,
I mean,
there would be a problem. The Hypnotism Act of 1951 says we're theoretically not supposed to hypnotise live, just in case we hypnotise somebody who shouldn't be listening and they get up to something that they shouldn't do. Or that they claim that Salvador Ghost has caused them to have a psychotic episode. So perhaps it would be best to do this separately and then interview people about their experiences. There's a very famous American psychologist called Helen Wambach, who about 30 years ago did regressed about 4,000 people in little groups all over America. She wrote a book about it. And she found there weren't many people who were Indian chiefs or Queen Victoria or Boudica. They had ordinary lives, fishermen, fisherwomen, hunters, whatever. I've always had, there's always been a sort of a spiritual link throughout my life that goes back quite a way, and it's always fascinated me. So, you know, we'd be looking at that.
yeah.
And if we could have volunteers, we could have an initial chat, just check they're suitable.
Sort of pre-check.
Pre-chat.
If you're not comfortable with anything, you can come in, see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, if I was the Nazi guard who killed you in 1940, then I'm not the best person to be there. Perhaps, yeah, or something like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you clash with people, and then it's not good.
Are there any side effects? Are there any?
No, usually quite. Most people are just chilled and relaxed.
Yeah. So after it, you won't start seeing visions. You won't be hallucinating.
You might dream a little bit.
Yeah.
You might have that, but in that sense, it would be a developmental thing
Okay.
where you'll see things.
Yeah.
It's the process.
There is an old tradition that when the Chinese invaded Tibet in the 1950s, a lot of the Tibetan lamas were killed. And I have heard the argument that a lot of the people who were killed were reborn around in the 70s, late 60s, 70s, and that's part of the message. There's an old Tibetan prophecy that says when the iron eagle flies and wagons run on wheels, the tradition will come to the land of the pink people. And that's when Tibetan Buddhism and Zen Buddhism began to come into the West. And I think that's fascinating at the moment, that you can look at explanations like that.
Okay.
So I think I've probably gone on long enough about
No. Well,
music.
we're good on time.
We're good on time, are we?
We're good on time. Yeah, we're really good. I think one thing I think personally taken away from past life regression now is, I think, quite an open topic at the moment for myself. Is I believe I've talked to you about it before. Astral projection.
Sure.
I think I'd like to get. I don't know who I want to pick on first. I want to pick on Anthony. I don't want to pick on you.
Well, I've talked to it. Why don't Anthony? No,
Yeah.
they'll jump in.
So we're giving the mic back to Anthony Cherry, guys. So I guess I'm picking on you now, astral projection.
Okay.
Your views, your takes, I guess from your point of view.
Sure. Well, I do astral projection, but I call this shamanic journey.
Right.
Okay. So astral projection,
shamanic journey in the middle world, where we do the business end of shamanic work, I suppose. And it's basically, middle world is this world, but from a spiritual viewpoint. So when we travel and adjust our frequencies to theta by using the drum, and then we focus with an intention what we're going to do in the middle world, this will probably come into the more westernized term, journey, which is the same as astral projection. So I will astral project to do a location or go and see, because once I've been to a location, I've got it in my head what it is, and it needs further work, I'll just do it from my home. So what I'm doing, in essence, is astral projecting to that place to check up on it and see if everything is...
So your physical body becomes rested and your soul is someone else.
That's, with the shamanic journey, and that's when we go out into the soul viewpoint, of the world, the middle world, and that's astral project to a location. So it's very, a lot of these westernized, psychological stuff is pretty much how it's tried in shamanism. I mean, shamanism, in essence, I feel, is the original psychology.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely.
Alright, I think I've chilled on Ant for a second then. So I'll pick on you then. Your views, astral projection.
Right. There is no Buddhist tradition of visualising a body that is you a few yards over there, shall we say, which is turning away from you, and you imagine in that tradition a line from your third eye, whatever you want to call it, touching that. The idea they used to train Buddhist monks was to imagine you were in the other body and you open the eyes and could look out. Now, that's an interesting pattern. In modern neuro-linguistic programming, we talk about actualizing what we want, making real what we want. There are 5 senses we relate to the world. We see, we hear, we taste, we smell, and we touch. If we can imagine ourselves in all those senses doing that thing, then that's pretty similar to what you're suggesting. If a North American Indian was to imagine hunting successfully, they would imagine the bear that they were going to catch. They would see it. They would taste it. They would imagine what it was. Yes. So they would, and they usually they might find it then.
Yeah. And that's it. I come back to that.
Yeah. So visualizing yourself in a positive situation is very powerful. In a negative situation, it can be what keeps people stuck in a place where they don't move on. I sometimes wonder if depression, anxiety, has within it a spiritual element, as you say, an energy. Yeah, that we're stuck there. So the idea of shamanic journeying is something that is very long and very honourable, and we can dress it up with modern psychological terms, but it doesn't really matter what we call it. You know,
Can we package it no matter
you
the
can
times?
repackage it in whatever ways you want to. If you use the model of the internet and the model of virtual reality, you have almost got the shamanic universe in that way, and that's giving us new ways to think and act. So shamanic journeying is very powerful. Sometimes, my client had a dream once where they were horrified in a dream by a hideous monster. So we worked on this, and the next night they had a dream where they were in my consulting room. There was a picture of the monster on the wall, just a picture, and the person felt safe. So, did I do that in a shamanic way? I don't know. I don't mind what you call it. If using it in a shamanic way helps, that's great. So, a rose by any other name smells just as sweet.
That's true.
And that's why we have to be as wide open as we can. Naturally, if somebody was an evangelical Christian, they might get a bit disturbed by this. But there is evidence that St. Augustine believed that we did have pre-existence. There's a very ancient tradition in Judaism that we have pre-existence. And often little children believe that if they wish something strongly enough, it actually happens. So, I don't know what you call it.
Yeah.
If you tell us, do it.
It's the power of willpower, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's energy, it's positive energy. It's
Positive
What
energy.
we call
Yeah.
shamanic, your intention.
Precisely.
Yeah.
The intention makes it. It's the intention that empowers ritual. It's the intention that empowers change.
Yeah, and the subconscious mind is a very powerful thing as well. I mean, when you're sleeping, you can dream that you're somewhere else, and it's kind of you go into like a psychogenic figure where you're sleeping, but your mind is elsewhere. You're in another person's body.
There's an old friend of mine. I've done many of her workshops. Her name is Dolores Ashcroft-Wiki. She's a third generation psychic. She lives in Jersey, and she lived in Jersey, and she was evacuated she was evacuated when the Blitz came. And when the bombs were falling, before she went out, she used to visualise a monastery, a place of security. And years later, in a book, she actually came across a picture of that monastery. When I was training, I had a dream that I came to a crossroads. And at that crossroads was a creature that had a snake's body, a human head, a crown on it, and wings. And I was, well, I think we said shit about somebody who's ready to get on shit scared. And years later, I passed it and it was fine. I passed it, and years later I came across a picture of it in a book. I'd never seen that picture before. It was a spirit naga. And whether you regard it as my personal animal, or whether you regard it as something I saw in the book once, and all my thoughts crystallised around it, I don't know. But that's the value of it, how it works for you.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And I believe you had something you wanted to talk to.
Yeah.
I think it was an answer to.
Where's the aspect again from where you were saying we become like that, become that wolf, or
Yes, yes.
just get to the quarry? I mean, that's the term still used today in shamanic practice. So
Yes.
shape-shifting.
Shape-shifting.
I mean, 40,000 years ago,
Yes.
pretty much as a society we still in caves and we
Yeah.
were hunter-gatherers.
Yes.
And like the first practice in shamanism, we probably would become, say, if there was a particular deer in a native, they would
That's
watch and observe how a wolf would hunt that deer.
Yes.
So they would become, right, we would become that wolf, take
That's
on the
right.
aspect
Of
of
the
it.
wolf.
Yeah, even like hunt a wolf and get the clothing, put the wolf's clothing on, and then get that sheep and get that deer.
Precisely.
Yeah, so
I
that's
mean,
the term.
If you go back to ancient Egypt, you have a different tradition. You have human bodies with animal heads on them. That's because the ancient Egyptians wanted the quality of the animal in the human.
Yeah.
Now that's very shamanic. Like, for example, the jackal, Anpu, became the god Anubis in ancient Egypt. Anpu means he who sits upon the mound. The jackal survived the floods. And the gods to Egypt were us using the wisdom of animals. That's why I'm a vegetarian. Factory farming is horrendous. It slaughters millions and millions of animals. How on earth can we properly get back in touch with the natural world and animals if we slaughter animals like that? The North American Indians killed bears. The Inuit killed whales. They always thank the animal for its
Honour the
sacrifice.
spirit.
Yes. We don't honour in the slaughterhouses today. We don't do that. We use animals as a term of abuse. It's not animals who kill. It's not animals who torture. It's humans. Perhaps we've lost touch. And that's why shamanism is so powerful, because it's putting us back in touch with the natural world.
We are a part of, not above.
Yes.
One point two.
As above, so below.
I've just been, well, not just now, but 9 minutes ago, back to Amberley and Diane Cardiff. Hi guys, give us a shout back there, you know. We hope the weather's nice down here, honestly. Amberley Baker is asking, with past life regression, can it actually be performed on people who are not maybe susceptible to hypnosis?
That's an interesting question. Everybody can be hypnotised by somebody. It's a method of teaching. Anybody who's really into meditation, who's able to relax, calm down, they're usually able to be hypnotised.
Yeah?
Yeah. there's no difficulty. And let's try and get rid of the fear of the word hypnosis. Let's call it altered states. When we drive a long distance in a car, we enter an altered state. When we make love, we enter an altered state. When we watch a television program, we are in a different position, different place. Everybody can be hypnotised, and people can learn to be better hypnotic subjects. That's another thing we do. Before we actually tested, where we did the group, we'd see how suggestible people were. Suggestible doesn't mean controllable. It means how far can you go into yourself. That's a shamanic trait, isn't it? How you do that. How far you can actually go into yourself and shut off so you can concentrate on one thing to the exclusion of everything else. People who are visual find it easier.
Yeah.
People who can see.
So when you say visual, I think you mean by
So for
that.
example, if you can visualise your front door very clearly,
Mm-hmm.
or you can remember a place particularly
So you're saying that they are more susceptible.
more
So
susceptible.
when we say visual, you're looking like a creative type thing. People who can read a book and sort of like
Yes.
that type of thing, very vivid imagination.
People who are imagination, people who are interested in things like the paranormal, people who can lose themselves are the best.
I sound like a guinea
Men are
pig.
usually not as good as women.
Is it because men? Well, I don't know. I think is it because you're going to say men maybe lock up or something? Or?
Yes, they might do, because they don't know themselves or perhaps not in touch with their emotions.
Mm.
The more imaginative you are, the better you are. If you do a practical subject like engineering, some people have said you're not as good, but the very best person I ever did a past life regression with was a man who was an engineer.
Oh.
So there are no fixed,
Comes down to the state of mind.
it can have the state of mind. And also, too much anxiety to enter a state might get in the way. Yeah?
Yeah.
If you can't relax, if you're...
Yeah.
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 Calm. Don't be so tense.
Don't be so tense.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a good 15, 20 minutes of it would be relaxing people. And I've often found there's also a cut-off. Sometimes there's a protection where if you're not meant to see something,
Mind protects itself.
Yeah,
you don't get anything.
So, yeah, a very fragile thing.
Yeah.
A woman came to see me and she said to me once, I'd like you to do a past life regression. And she was really angry with me at the end because she got nothing. And the minute she'd walked into my room, I felt a really uneasy feeling. So obviously,
Like you said,
I was
back down
connected
anxiety
with it.
type thing.
Or she wasn't ready to see it.
Sometimes when you want something, it's like when you sort of take back the course something, you want something so much, you want to see something so much.
And you end up not seeing that.
Bingo. And then when you least expect something.
It's like that,
Yeah.
because I go in expecting to see something always, but it doesn't always happen. You know?
You just chill.
You get
Still
so
on
excited.
like that.
Yeah.
Just chill. I come from a very formally trained background, but I have a very open mind.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best way. As you said, look for rational explanations, but when you can't find it, that's the most fascinating thing.
Definitely.
That's the most fascinating.
Definitely. I think I got a question on my phone, which is from another person off the team from last week. I'm going to give you the mic, and maybe we can talk a bit more about your therapies, what you offer,
Sure.
if you want to, that is.
Yeah,
Yeah?
that's bro. So,
That's the mic for you. I've got a
thank you.
question for you, so you go if you want. You talk about yourself, your company, what you offer.
As a modern shamanic practitioner, I run Cherrywood Therapy Shamanic Practice. There's two aspects really to my game. I do a lot of soul retrieval, which is healing for people. So with soul retrieval, it's pretty much if anybody's had a trauma in this lifetime, we'll look at that, your loss of power, and what I'll come in as a shamanic and just restore the power and get yourself all aligned up, do inclusive of chakra alignment, as we call it here, which is your energy vortex, as you said before, the aura or soul sphere or whatever you would like to call that. All this gets all knocked out of shape, see, just by day-to-day living. You know, so it always puts us a bit off guard, and you know, beside myself, and all these expressions are actually terms which describe you and your power center. You know, so that's the healing part, and sometimes it would just be like going back to power, with the Egyptian point you made, but animals using them significantly, you know, strengths and qualities of a particular animal a person may need. So that's like power retrieval. That would be to put it back into the person. So. And then soul retrieval also is like, you know, when we have traumas in our life, bits of our souls stay along that line. So it's like past life, but not quite, if you know what I mean. So as me as a shaman, I go and retrieve it. address that issue and bring it back again, which would probably be classed as an original psychological practice
Precisely.
somewhere along the lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one aspect of what I do. And the other one then is the space clearing. You know, it's not just homes, it could be land as well.
Yes.
I mean, mostly ghosts are quite rare, I'll be honest, of actual hauntings by people. Sometimes it's just, like I said, bad feng shui. And sometimes also it could be the actual land itself. Maybe the land spirits itself, the fair folk, all these
Yes.
kind of beings which are around us, all these
Yes.
energy beings,
Yes.
can have an effect if they're not happy about the extension building and the place starts going a bit haywire. I'll come in and I'll do like what I call spirit liaison. I'll just like talk and say if we can come up and strike a deal. You know, even when it comes, if I do find people who have passed but haven't quite passed into the light, as we call it, I'd encourage them, well, it's down to them. Do they need help? Do I feel that my spirit guides work with me? Do they feel that this person in the spirit needs to go to a place of healing? And if that's the answer, then that's what will happen. You know, always, I don't come in and start just going, right, you're gone, this is that. I'll go in and say, right, what's the best outcome? Whereas working here, you know, living on the human existence, and you spirit guides. Can we like blend it over together and can we like work in harmony? Because that's what it's all about in my eyes.
Doing
You
what's
know?
best for the spirit, yeah.
And everything is about everything, which is energy, that, you know, for the space clearing what I do, for the actual soul healing I do, everything, I feel, it's just, everything needs to be in balance, that's all. Yeah, so that's what it comes down to, about balancing everything. Balance the home, balancing yourself, and you're good to go.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's pretty much it.
That's pretty, that's pretty good then.
So you bring balance and order to lost souls and tortured people.
Yeah, if they need the face to go and move
Who
on.
have passed on, but they haven't passed on.
But don't know.
No, they get
Yeah.
stuck in the trauma of their death sometimes,
Yeah,
like
they're trapped.
suicidal.
Yeah.
You know, they don't know they've passed. And I come in and I go, hello. And they go, right, this is
Yeah.
what needs to be done for you.
Yeah.
Just be at peace. And then the balance restores in place. That's all.
I got two final questions. One refers back to you
Yes.
from last Thursday show actually,
Yes.
from Craig, one of the boys on the team.
Yes.
And it's when you're talking about sleep paralysis it was.
Yes.
He goes, I mentioned here we've got sleep paralysis, keeps you in a dream state, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so your mind will be dreaming and there will be extremely vivid dreams.
Yes.
Agreed? So whereas you could be extremely vivid dreams where you think the events are real, which is true.
Yes, that's correct.
I told you I've experienced some sleep paralysis myself. Some studies show that this might be the real cause to people maybe believe that have been abducted by aliens.
Yes, it's possible.
Yeah?
Yes. Yeah, as I said last week, there are things called lucid dreams where everything's real.
Right.
Which is you could do a whole program on lucidity in dreams. But the simple point is that in the Middle Ages we believed that we were abducted by the pharaohs. Yeah. In the modern day we were abducted by aliens. Isn't that interesting how what's there is similar
Yeah.
but different? There is always a way of interpreting an event in the culture that it's meant to be in. And let's respect that for that, because that's why traditional ways of looking at the world, you have to say, where does it come from? What sense does it mean to the person? Dreams are interesting.
Yeah.
They may be a way that you get insight. Respect the dreams. We have an appalling history in the West of ignoring dreams.
Yeah, some people won't talk about it till they've had after something to eat or
Yeah.
done the little maybe you could say pattern thing or where they've gone don't know.
I mean, it's good old Freud and Jung who rescued the dream, believing it was just caused by too much cheese.
Yes,
Dream,
yeah, I've heard
but
this,
that's
A
what-
dream is a
yeah.
message
It's a
from the
metaphor.
unconscious to the conscious mind, and that's you are knowing yourself. Respect your dreams. Tread softly because you walk upon that dream.
And I have one last question before we wrap up. Again, it's for Dave back in Cardiff. Hello again, Dave. Right then, he goes past life regression. He goes, could past life experiences be affected by nowadays life? And we've got merely a delusion of what passed by the person. For example, he's got there people who study history, etc. Could they have a high knowledge of something in the 1600s and may therefore bring that into past life regression story from their own mind?
Yes, they could. I did a past life regression where somebody said they were playing football in the 14th century. It's really when you discover things that you don't necessarily know. I have a degree in history as well, and I could be influenced by it, but there is a great difference between...
Again, it's that scratch of subconscious.
Yeah, but sometimes you know the difference. You know that it's different.
Yeah.
There's just a knowing there that's not influenced.
I'm with you.
I'll give you a famous example how powerful a suggestion is. In the Christian tradition, they all show Christ as being crucified through the hands. Actually, the Romans crucified through the hands.
The rest were in it.
Padre Pio, who was a Catholic monk who was very holy, could make his palms bleed. The very fact is that the Christian founder was actually crucified
Because it wasn't the strength to hold them up.
That's not strength to hold up, you see. So we know things. If you start imagining things like that, then that is part of how history and culture influences you. So you have to look in a different way.
Okay, to hope that that's answered your question. So first I want to say thank you to our guests again, our resident parapsychologist Martin Shrewsbury, Dr. Martin Shrewsbury, Adam, who's my co-host, who's going to be over the next however long we do this for.
Yes,
And last but not least is Anthony Cherry. He can be reached if anybody needs him for a spirit liaison or anything like that through us. Again, so can Martin. I would also like to apologise for technical glitches with the sound levels, which by the looks now has been fixed. So again, sorry if that won't happen again. Seriously, anybody interested in past life regression, please do get in touch. Seriously, it's an interesting topic. I think we both, well, all of us would love to see the outcomes of it all.
Yeah.
So if you are interested in us, please email southwestghostwatch@gmail.com. Share us on Facebook. Again, we're in the Southwest Ghost Watch. Or inbox me, look me on Facebook, Ian Lewis, or chase Alan Jones if you're interested. Okay. So thank you very much again for our guest speakers.
Yeah.
We'll be back next week, same time, same place. I think you're on next week.
Yes.
So Martin, is there any questions for Martin Shrewsbury? Again, forward us or jump online and ask questions. So yeah, so thank you very much, and I didn't end it too quick this time either, I believe. I think that's pretty good, isn't it? So cheers all,
Bye, guys.
good night, and we should be back in touch next week.